We're in the home stretch now. Okay, so, YouTube audience, I've been really stressed with university because I am crazy. I am a music student, which A, is dumb because it is like so much ridiculous amount of work for a ridiculously small payoff. And secondly, it's making me go crazy, man. But anyways, I have gone ahead and booked a SSL2 USB interface and 2 Rode NT5s to do a recording session of a group that is doing this like Chinese jazz sort of hybrid piece that this guy I know wrote. But I figured I would use this opportunity to make a video on FL Studio recording and how it's not actually as bad as all the people on YouTube say it is. Oh, I use FL Studio to make my music, but I use Ableton or Pro Tools or Logic to record because FL Studio is just a pain in the ass. Well, guess what, bitch? Fuck you! Fuck you! It's actually not that hard, and I'm gonna prove it, and I'm gonna show you how to make your recordings sound fucking banger in FL Studio. Just with 2 mics and a cheap interface, because I don't even have my own interface. I have a fucking Blue Yeti. Okay, fun intro over. Now it's time for the boring part, the technical jizzle begingle. All of this video footage has been like taken and put together out of order, so it's a bit weird. Basically, my main point is a lot of the people hating on FL Studio, saying it's not as powerful as Ableton, is basically just like, it's just based on ignorance of the abilities of the software. And I'm going to go through how recording works in particular in FL Studio, so people who have it don't feel like they need to purchase another DAW just because they want to be able to record as effectively. It is actually not that hard to set up, and it works just as well. It sounds exactly the same as any other DAW. The audio engine in all DAWs is basically the same. Sound is literally just a measurement of positive and negative, like, air movement. It's really not that complicated. But full disclosure, I accidentally deleted the audio files that I was actually recording with the mics into the interface while I was doing this, because I'm stupid. I like, oh, do you want to save this project? Do you want to save these files? I was like, no. I'm like, I'm not going to use this project again, like a total dumbass. So you're going to listen to the audio that's coming through my phone and through the Blue Yeti, so I apologize. There's like very brief segments that you're going to hear actually coming through the NT5 and through the SSL2 Plus. Sorry about the mess, everybody. I wasn't expecting company. Okay, so I've got a bunch of shit. I've got mic stands. I've got XLR cables and an audio interface that I'm borrowing from my school. And of course, microphones. See, I'm doing this whole process for instrumental recording, so it's not exactly ideal for vocals. This microphone here, I have a pair of Rode NT5 microphones, which are small diaphragm condensers, just like a little tube. They're not ideal for vocals. It's not like they're unusable, but this is what they look like, these guys. They come with windscreens and stand attachy clippy things in the box. Big box like this. So I'm going to set one up and show you how the setup works in FL Studio. And then I'm going to go through some different things you can do in FL Studio to make recording not a fucking nightmare. So I'm just going to leave the camera running, and if I have to spend 100 years editing this shit, then I will. I don't know why I'm on the FL Studio website. I already own the Signature Edition. I've got 2 cables. I'm pretty sure these are 50-foot ones. I asked for 25, but 25-foot cables, but it's still going to be usable regardless, so it doesn't really matter that much. And here's this guy. SSL2 Plus, which is actually the interface I was looking at buying, but now Solid State Logic is coming out with a new one that has 4 preamps and a total of 12 inputs through ADAT. So that's the one I'm going to get. Yeah, I really wasn't expecting to have company. my apartment is the most stereotypical bachelor pad there is. This guy is bus powered, don't need an external power source. Yes, I want to install the drivers to use the audio interface that I booked. Which, you know, is natural. I'm doing this on video like a total dumbass. While we wait for this guy to have all of the drivers installed on my laptop here, I'm going to pull out one of these mic stands and set up a single microphone, because I'm not setting up both of these microphones and unraveling the beautifully wrapped XLR cables just to tear it down and bring it back out. And that should do it. And since I don't have a pop filter, I'm going to put the windscreen on this thing and pretend that that's adequate. When you're doing microphones, you put the clip on before you attach the microphone to the clip, because that way you aren't like rotating expensive equipment. These MT5s are not all that expensive, I believe. They don't let us take the expensive mics off campus. I'm going to grab my headphones. And I'm going to grab my backup cable, because I have two sets of cables. One that I just have my my 1/4-inch TRS adapters on it all the time, so I don't have to switch it. The coiled cable, I have the coiled cable that comes with these headphones, the wired version of the Audio-Technica M50X. I use the coiled cable for my recording class, so I just bring them in. I just unhook it from the cable that's hooked up to my Blue Yeti and just attach it. So, phones A. I'm just going to grab one XLR cable, not SLR, Jesus Christ, I'm so stupid. And I'm going to hook it up to this bitch right here, right in that little guy's asshole. I'm going to hook it up to this microphone here and to my lapper topper. And I'm going to do my best to not unravel as much of this as I can. That's the wrong end. This is the right end. There we go. Let me check the gain here. In OBS, the microphone is set to just be in the left channel. Input 1 is just showing up as left, which I guess is understandable. That makes sense. So if I were to plug the other one, it would be coming in the right ear, which isn't exactly what I want right now. It's not giving me the option to select the specific mic in OBS, but it is working. I'm going to check what it sounds like in the left ear, and then I'm going to open it up in FL Studio. Okay, so here's my FL Studio 21, which just came out like yesterday. The full FL Studio 21 is now available for purchase, or download. If you already have FL Studio, you can upgrade for free. And if you don't have FL Studio 21 or FL Studio, I recommend it. They just updated, and the update basically got rid of every issue that was with FL Studio that isn't just personal like workflow preferences. Like, audio editing became so much easier in FL Studio 21 specifically, and they added a bunch of stock plugins that I think are quite good, including the most advanced reverb basically ever made, and a multi-band delay, which I'm very excited about using. I haven't tried the vintage phaser, but I'm looking forward to it, maybe for some interesting dubstep sound design. Okay, so in FL, we're going to go to audio settings, input output. See, you get an option in your menu in FL Studio that says ASIO devices, and then you just have your interface. I'm selecting solid state logic ASIO driver, which will allow me to select either input here. And in here, I have the option to record either input or both as a stereo combo input. To set up a recording in FL Studio, what I can do is I can have assigned a new audio track. What this does is it means that if I have it set to a mic input, say I have input 1 set to this guy, and I start recording, then it will record into the playlist in a mono signal, and if I record over, it'll record in the same track rather than just putting it in a random place. So if you're going to do a recording session in FL Studio, the thing that makes it confusing to a lot of people is that you have to set it up, because FL Studio gives the option to have your workflow work in whatever way you want it to. If you wanted to have it set up so that you can have only one track be for your vocals, you actually have to set it up that way. Otherwise, it's just going to keep stacking layers underneath. So if I start recording again, because I still have the track armed, if you already have a track created for vocals, instead of just sprinkling it through the project, if you have a specific audio track and your microphone input linked to that track, it will create a grouped track underneath that you can collapse and uncollapse, which makes vocal comping so much easier, or just like recording comping, just a really easy task. And a lot of people don't understand that this is a feature in FL, and they think that recording is a pain in the ass, but this is like, it's really easy if you know how to set it up properly. And you can have multiple tracks going at once. So for instance, if I were to go to insert 2 and say, oh, I want input 2 to be that, I could have it recording into a separate track here, and I would have 1 and 2 going at the same time. The only issue with FL Studio recording, in my opinion, is sometimes there's latency, but a lot of that is with your hardware. A lot of that is computer issues. Like for me, I use a Blue Yeti, which has a lot of recording latency in like FL Studio because its converters are slow. This is basically perfectly responsive. You can set that one to be an audio track as well. And then if I delete everything and let me see, just delete the track. Go back to the beginning, and I set up this one so that it's input 2. I don't have anything hooked into input 2 right now, but I can still demonstrate what I'm doing. So I have them both set up as a mono input right now. So as you can see, insert 1 created the track below, and insert 2 is also going at the same time. You can make as many takes as you have mixer channels, which is 125 mixer channels. So basically, you are limited basically only by how many line or mic inputs you have. And it works exactly the way you'd expect it. You can start your recording at any point. You can move your recordings around. You can select. It works basically like any other DAW, and FL Studio gets like a lot of hate for its recording, even though the recording is fine. It's the same as any other DAW. Okay, let me reset these tracks to default real quick. And I'm going to set this one to be input 1 and 2, and I'm going to turn this one off. And if I go back to the beginning, you see it works just the same way, just like recording in any other DAW. Of course, I'm going to mute it because I want to talk. But now, instead of recording a mono signal, it's recording a stereo signal, but because I only have one mic input, it's just putting everything I say on the left side. But when I'm doing my actual recording, which I booked this equipment for, it's going to work exactly the way it is. I'm going to be recording myself and another musician playing the piano. I'm just going to have 2 mics set up in the room and have them going. And then I'm going to do a second thing where I have them set up so I'm going to have him record piano with spots inside the grand piano. I'm going to have like these mics just stuck in there, and then I'm gonna record my flute playing over top of it, and it's gonna be good. Okay, so this is one of the takes I did. This is the segment I did of the recording of just the spot mics inside the piano. I'm not going to play most of it for privacy reasons, but I'll play just the beginning. I have mic 1 as one of these tracks and mic 2 as the other of these tracks, and then I only did 2 takes of this because I realized that this sounded like fucking garbage and I'm not using it. And I'm only going to use the general room mics. I might keep this and maybe sprinkle it in to give it a bit more presence, but this isn't exactly the sound that I wanted. I wanted it to be more like... If I had 4 mic inputs, basically, I would have had piano spots and had them quieter. So I might sprinkle them into the main recording, but that'll be a pain in the butt because it's a very free piece that is kind of difficult to mix because it's not like locked into one tempo, as you can see. Here's the first take. It has like the 3 chords, they are like almost the same, but if I like take off turn off stretch. If I take off the beginning here and bring it back, see, this one is a little bit slower, at least at the start. So that's the idea. But there's a whole bunch of things you can do for vocal editing that I wanted to touch on because, or like record audio editing. There's a whole bunch of things you can do for audio editing in FL that you just a lot of people don't think you can do. Okay, so fades, new FL Studio, they added fades. You used to have to literally go into the audio file, right-click, create automation, and there's a declicking mode that would create like an automatic crossfade, but you couldn't really do anything with it. So you would have to literally do volume automation to do fades in the older version, even just as recently as FL Studio 20. Now they have fades, and by default, if you take this stuff off, like for example, if I just do Shift, Control, no, I have to select, if I select the knife tool, hit Shift, and I just bring this out, and I bring this one over, you got an automatic crossfade, which you can disable, or you can turn it back on. Mm-hmm. And if you hit Control-Alt-Z, you can undo all of that. Control-Z is undo/redo. It just undoes the last action, and that includes undo. But if you hold Alt, it'll just keep undoing all the way back to an empty project file. So I'd be careful about using that. A lot of people don't know about that shortcut and complain. So yeah. And in the options, I think it's in the project settings or about ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it's in project settings, automatic crossfades. You can just turn that on and off. And if you turn it off, it'll be like FL Studio used to be, where you could just stack files on top of each other. But I like having it on for this purpose. So if you press Shift, if you have the little X-Acto knife tool selected, if you hit Shift, you can just cut. So if I bring these guys over, if I wanted to do my vocal, or my audio comping, my take compiling here, just line up where I want to make a fade. I can go make a cut. And if I screw up, I can always yeah, that's how you want to have it. So it's like when you're making an edit like that for a fade, it's similar to how you would do it in Logic or Ableton. Is you you want to have the one that you are fading to be a little offset, so it's not. You can set it to your fade snap, or you can hold Alt and they won't. You can do it like this, and then you'll have a flawless thing going on right here. See, I mean, obviously I would time it a little better, but you get the picture. Because I've edited the fades, it won't automatically crossfade it if I cross it over. But to fix that, just get in another copy of the same file. There's now a gain knob directly on the directly on the audio clips as well. So you can just turn it up 36 dB if you feel the need to do that, and it automatically clips it, so you don't have to worry about that. So, YouTube people, stop hating on FL just because you are defensive over your purchases, okay? Any DAW can basically do anything, and if you are an FL user and you have been like convinced that you need to switch DAWs because FL is bad at recording or it's bad at something, put it in the comments. I will like go after your insecurity, because if you have FL Studio, you don't need to buy another DAW. You don't need to spend all that money on something and learn another piece of difficult to understand software. I mean, if you've learned FL Studio, you don't need to learn another DAW. And I get that FL Studio is different than every other DAW, and that learning another one after learning FL is more difficult, unless you want to work with other people. But generally, you can get the idea of how DAWs work from FL, and you can work with other people generally. It didn't take me that long to figure out how to use Ableton, for example. And Logic is fucking easy as shit. And Logic is super easy. It's like very intuitive. It's very simple and intuitive, and I will not stop gushing about Logic and Ableton. They're very good pieces of software, and if you want to use them, use those. I mean, just pick whichever DAW you like the best for whatever reason. Like, I personally like FL Studio because I've used Ableton and Logic, and I just think this one is better for who I am as a musician, because I am compulsive and I like having control over everything. I like doing everything manually. I like plugging in cables. I like being able in FL. I like how the mixer works in FL, where I can just go dock a channel to the right to create a send and go like boop. See how that easy? I like visually seeing a sidechain. And because of this, I am one of the few people that knows that a sidechain is not just a fucking volume automation clip. So, FL Studio, it's not... I don't like how it's marketed as the fastest way from your brain to your DAW or whatever. I don't like that's how it's marketed, because I don't really think that's how it is. I can make music faster in Ableton. It's faster to get an idea down in Ableton. To make a drum beat, it's easier in FL. I don't like how drum sequencing is done in Ableton because it's all in the playlist. I love how the step with sequencer is the center of the software and everything is built out from there. But generally, like, the building of a full song is a faster process in Ableton. The reason I use FL is because it feels more personal. I don't know why it feels that way to me. Maybe I'm just completely insane, which I do understand that perception of me. But I hope this cleared some things up. And if you need like a reason to... If you're looking for a reason to not like your software, or if you're like being tricked into being insecure based on the opinions of internet people on the internet don't matter, and just use whatever DAW you want to use. You're not going to be able to tell on the other end unless you don't know how to produce music and you're just bad at it. No one's going to be able to tell. at the low and intermediate level, you can sort of hear the quirky differences of each DAW's workflow. Like, you can tell if someone used FL Studio because the drum patterns are a lot of the time more complex and the melodies are simpler. But also, like, once you get to that level, once you know how to produce music, you can do anything you want to do in any DAW. It's all the same. It's all the same. Sound is sound. Music is music. And stop worrying about it. It's fine. And recording was the big thing for me about FL, that I was like, oh, I need to learn Ableton quick. Otherwise, people in the industry are going to hate me for using FL Studios. They're going to hate me for using FruityLoopStudios.coms. It's like, people who are like, oh, it used to be called Fruity Loops, right? That one's a toy. People who say stuff like that are just insecure that they bought the wrong DAW, just like you're insecure about buying FL Studio. It doesn't matter which DAW you use. They all can do all the same stuff. They're all good. They all make music if you know how to put the music into it. You just got to learn it. Learn whatever you got. Learn whatever you got. Don't spend all your money. All right, that's the end of this video. Bye.